Welcome everyone tonight. If y'all could stand for pledge and a prayer.
Our heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this evening to be here to do your work for the city of Pryor. Lord, we pray that you lead, guide, and direct each one of us, Lord. From Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Amen. Attention. Salute. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Oh my goodness, what have we got here?
I just wanted to come and tell you guys thank you again and drop off something for everybody for letting us use the community building for the Santa's Christmas Village. In the 2.5 hours before the Christmas parade, we saw over 800 kids.
Wow, that's amazing,
We ran out of
Santa.
everything that we had by 5 o'clock, so it was open about an hour and 15, by 5:15 we ran out of everything. And so we're all set to do it again next year. I don't know if y'all got to come down and see the reindeer were there. And that was a big hit with the kids. So, but the photographer printed off 433 photos. And of all those 433 photos, about 20 or 30 of them was of one kid. The rest of them were anywhere from 2 to 6 kids or the whole thing. So we easily had 1,000 people come through
That's awesome.
that night. So again, I just wanted to drop in and say thank you. Mrs. Claus is sick. We did three different parades in 4 nights, so sitting out in the cold for, hour and a half before a parade got to her.
So no leftover cookies, huh?
Huh?
No leftover cookies.
No leftover cookies, but I do have something else. I forgot.
Thank you for asking.
Well, I have these ornaments too that we give out, so everybody can have.
Thank you. I saw the very long line wrapped around
The
the,
line was wrapped
Very
all
long.
the way down to the
Thank
sheriff's
you.
department.
yes.
And so these are the ornaments we give out to the kids.
So fun.
And
Thank you.
again, just want to thank you.
Now Santa, if you would, just briefly tell us, when did you start working on this year? Would you tell us when you started?
I started in July,
Wow.
going to ask businesses for donations. Pryor and Mays County businesses, everything. All together, I raised almost $10,000 to put this on, so the businesses were great. The last big donation was from Marty Ward. Went to plug in some lights and I couldn't keep a plug into a receptacle down there. So I called Marty, asked him if he could just come and replace the receptacle. Marty went above and beyond. You guys now have 3 new wall outlets on the north, you got 3 on the south, you got 1 at the kitchen, you got 1 in the back.
That's awesome.
He he had a crew there from 7:30 until about 3:30 on Tuesday,
Wow.
putting in new outlets for everybody. And he said that was his donation to the Christmas Village. So,
Oh, that's awesome.
That was great. Also, you opened early for kids who,
special needs kids, we open
disabled.
up at 3 o'clock. We do 3 to 4 for special needs kids, autistic kids. We had quite a few come to that. And then, like I said, we probably opened about 10 minutes early to let the crowd in. And we probably went till about 6:45 until we had to cut it off and I had to get to the parade. So I just wanted us to come in. I told Larry I'd just like to come in and just say thank you for everything.
So for those in the crowd that don't know, why Pryor? Why not somewhere else?
Pryor, Santa's hometown. That's where Santa.
There you go. There you go.
You know,
Next
when,
best to the North Pole, huh?
last year, when I got the opportunity to take over the Pryor Christmas Parade to step in after Jim Chronister stepped down, I had this crazy idea to do this, and it's just, I wanted to grow every year, but this year it exploded. It went, and I can't thank you guys and the city of Pryor and Locust Grove, Adair. There's businesses in each town that chipped in for this. And it was a great night.
So we made your nice list.
Yeah,
Is that what you're saying?
everybody's on the nice
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
well, the kids are the main recipients of it. And
Yes, sir.
thank you very much for your hard
Thank
work.
you, Robert.
Get out of here.
Or Santa, sorry. Thank you, Santa.
Thank you, Santa Claus.
Yeah.
You know, you never can tell when Santa Claus is going to show up, so. Let's do roll call, please.
Shirley Shropshire. Dennis Nance.
Here.
Steve Smith.
Here.
Randy Chipwood.
Here.
Yvette Barham.
Here.
Chris Gantier.
Here.
Laura Seacrest.
Here.
Item 2 is petitions from the audience. I know of none. Item 3, department head reports. We'll go down the line here. Building inspector, no report. Emergency management, recognize Mr. Johnny Jansen.
Just want to let you know, we did get our acceptance for the new year on our emergency management grant. I think that's 11 years in a row that we've got that. Not everybody gets it, but we've been fortunate enough to get that every year. And one of the new things on this grant is we have to do an analysis of all the hazards that's going to affect Pryor, and especially in the hazardous material aspect of it. So we'll be doing that over the next couple of months, looking at some of the plants and their emergency operation plans and stuff like that, and put a plan together and submit it for them. Anybody have any questions?
What's the weather look like coming up the next
rain.
45 days?
It's going to rain tomorrow, I think like an inch and a half or something, hopefully. But, yeah, they, over a week or two, they never can get it just exactly right, so we'll wait and see.
Are we still in a drought, Mays County?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exceptional drought. So it's the worst level that you can have. Even though we've got a little bit of rain, it's just not enough to come up with a deficit. So, no burn bans right now, but definitely still in a drought.
Probably about 15 inches short.
I don't remember what the latest numbers were, but it was pretty close to that.
Very good. Any other questions for Johnny? Thank you, sir. Fire department? Recognize Assistant Chief James Balmer.
Last month, we ran 71 calls with 24 page outs. Been keeping the guys busy with training. We've actually hosted NIMS 300 and the Incident Safety Officers course. We've got a 400 coming up, flashover, vehicle extrication, first on scene, which deals with the active shooters in the schools. Keeping busy with that. Next week, you know, we're starting three new guys next week. Actually, got on the agenda tonight. We've got a volunteer on the agenda that he actually went through the testing process and tested really, really high, but he had no experience. So we thought we'd give him a shot, see if that's what he liked. He might get in and see a car wreck or a fire and say, this ain't for me. So that's about it. Y'all got any questions?
Thank you, James. Appreciate it. Golf course? Recognize Mr. Dennis Bowman.
Good evening, everyone. Golf course has been doing really well. We've continued our good revenue even all the way through November. So we've been doing a lot of maintenance with leaf removal, and you know, that's a job, especially on 130 acres, but my guys are getting it done. So we've been doing a few other things, you know, fixing a few water leaks, doing a lot of painting at this time of year, trying to get things really nice for spring. Reason why I wasn't here last week, or 2 weeks ago at last council, I was at a turf conference getting my CEUs. Have to do that for my spray license. Our Halloween festival went really good, even though we got rained out all 3 nights. But we did have Mr. Shropshire and his wife, they come out and helped one night. And so it was still well attended, even though the rain hit us all 3 nights. But everybody said everything was really good. They really enjoyed the ride. We had probably every night, we probably had roughly 35 volunteers out there. So we had hundreds and hundreds of kids, and you know, that gives us a lot of good joy to see all those kids come out and have a good time and play on the hay and run around. And so there's a lot of fun things for them. We're doing a membership sale like we did last year. So anybody needing something to do, membership is a great gift. It gives all year long. You know, so please help pass that around. Tell your friends, relatives, and like us on Facebook and all that stuff. They they can get all the information they need for that. We're securing a lot of dates for tournaments and charitable events for next year, so our calendar's gonna be pretty full probably this next year. So if you know anybody wanting to do an event to raise money, you know, we've had some really good success this year doing that. So if you know of anybody, please pass it on to them, because the quicker we get it set up, the better it works for everybody. I believe that's all I have. Anybody have any questions for me?
Thank you very
See
much,
us out
Dennis.
there. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Library. Recognize our librarian, Ms. Carrie Rarrett.
Hi. We are set to open the library on December 19th at 9 a.m. We will continue our expanded hours from when we were at the Graham Building. I'm really thankful that the library board decided on December 19th. The other option was December 12th, and we are not ready for December 12th. We're still unpacking, wrangling the collection, getting everything on the shelves, everything cleaned up. It's quite a project, but we are doing it really well, and we're going to get done by the 19th. Our phones are working now. Fiber Interactive Technologies came and worked some serious magic. I'm not really sure how they pulled off what they did, but they're working, so we're answering the phones from 9 to 5, and people are welcome to leave messages or email or text if that's more convenient than calling us. Most of our furniture has arrived. Our shelving should be here this week, and then the remaining little bits of furniture that we haven't received yet should also be here this week. So I think that's all I've got. Do you guys have any questions for me? Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Carrie. Good work. Parks Cemetery. No report. Police Animal Shelter. Recognize Chief Nichols.
I don't have anything tonight Mayor, for the police department or the shelter unless you all have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Recreation Center. Ms. Jessica Tiger.
Hi, just a quick report. We had 121 new members last month. Retention rate, of course, is what I try to pay the most attention to, and we were able to retain 85% of our members. So all the numbers are looking really good right now. This is our slow time. It's cold and dark, and so people don't want to get out. And so we use that time to kind of revamp for the new year, analyze what classes are working, where we need to add classes, cut child watch hours, that sort of thing, to meet the need of our members. And then also just take care of some repair and maintenance things that once it slows down, we're able to get in. If you've noticed, the dead trees are finally gone on the south and the west side of the parking lot, so it looks really good. Yes, so it looks really great. A1 Tree Service did a great job. So we've got that.
Cedar
cleaned up.
trees?
Yes, yes. And there was also a dead elm, and they needed trimmed.
I don't know what happened to those things. They just died.
I don't know, we treated them last summer, but he told me something, they caught some kind of fungus, and so he said they just wouldn't come back. So we went ahead and got rid of them. We do have the new parking lot lights have been ordered. We're switching all to LEDs, so that'll take some time to get those in. And then we'll have those replaced. We've replaced a couple of HVAC things up on the roof. But other than that, everything's going well. Do you all have any questions?
Thank you,
Okay.
Jessica. Next is Street Department. Recognize Mr. Buddy Glenn.
Good evening. Well, last few weeks, like I said, I guess we've been running the sweeper every chance we get with all the leaves, trying to get the curbs and gutter, and when we get that done, then we're gonna move on to the ditches. We've been trimming tree limbs over the streets. We've installed a couple of handicap parking down at the library. They needed a couple down there, so we put those in. We need a handicap ramp put down at the new police fire building. We got it saw and dug out and set up today, and we can't get concrete till Friday. So, but it will be poured by Friday, and then we can pull forms on it. It'll be ready to use by Monday. Other than that, just our general stuff, but that's the main things we've been concentrating on. We got several loads of salt and salt sand mixed already set back. You know, I'm predicting we're gonna get 3 2-inch snows, so we're not really going to have a whole lot of that, so that's what my bones are telling me. So, but other than that, like I said, we're just into general stuff. I mean, you know, potholing when we can, and there's other things going on, but that's what we've been doing. You know, anybody's got, I don't know if they got your, dead end street, somebody called down there and wanted it, and I don't know if he got it.
I don't, they were looking at it the other day, but I do know they have a nasty pothole in front of the Oklahoma Fidelity Bank on Elliott. It's pretty nasty.
Yeah, I think we just put that one in there because people were speeding.
The only problem is, it's deep enough, but if you're trying to slow them down, it's not wide enough.
Well, I mean, we can only do so much. We just make it big, then we do it a little bit at a time, so it gets by that way. Anything else anybody have for me?
I had to say that because one of my constituents that's in here tonight mentioned that to me, and I said, I better say something.
Okay. No, anytime something like that comes up, email me or text me or call me or whatever. Because again, we're not up and down all the street all the time. And we don't see everything, but just anytime you do get something, or the mayor or Dart or whatever, and just sit up there and word get back to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, buddy. Item 4, Mayor's Report. Discussion of possible action regarding accepting resignation of John Ketcher, City Council Ward 1, effective 12/1/22. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion Gantier, second Smith. Any discussion?
We'd like to thank John for his efforts. and
Is he here?
moved.
Absolutely. Somebody's going to have to jump in on the adjourn item
Yeah.
in John's place.
I'll volunteer.
John served very faithfully and very well over his term, and he served before, and so we appreciate him very much. Call for vote?
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Chipwood,
Yes.
Barfield,
Yes.
Gantier,
Yes.
Seaver,
Yes.
Motion carries. Item B, discussion possible action regarding accepting mayor's nomination of Terry Lamar to Ward 1 council seat vacated by John Ketcher, effective immediately, term ending May 2023. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion Chitwood, second Smith. We have Terry's information in the packet, and he is here tonight, ready to be sworn in. Any questions, any comments? Hearing none, call for vote.
Smith,
Yes.
Chipwood,
Yes.
Barfield,
Yes.
Gantier,
Yes.
Seaver,
Yes.
Nance,
Yes.
Motion carries. Terry, would you come forward, and Mr. Ritchie, would you do swearing in?
Ready?
Ready.
Okay. Repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Terry Lamar,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will obey, defend, and support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Oklahoma
and the Constitution of the State of Oklahoma
and the Charter of the City of Pryor Creek, Oklahoma,
and the Charter of the City of Pryor Creek, Oklahoma,
that I will not knowingly receive,
that I will not knowingly receive,
directly or indirectly,
directly or indirectly,
any money or other valuable thing
any money or any other valuable thing
for the performance or non-performance
for the performance or non-performance
of any act or duty pertaining to my office,
of any act or duty pertaining to my office,
other than the compensation allowed by law.
other than the compensation approved by law.
I further swear or affirm
I further swear or affirm
that I will faithfully discharge my duties
I will faithfully discharge my duties
as City Council Ward 1
as City Council Ward 1
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Next, we're going to do the officer's loyalty oath. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution and the laws of the United States
that I will support the Constitution and the laws of the United States
and the laws of the State of Oklahoma,
and the laws of the State of Oklahoma,
and that I will faithfully discharge according to the best of my ability.
and I will faithfully discharge
According to
according to the best of my ability
the duties of my office.
the duties of my office
Or employment
or employment
during such time
during such time
as I am City Councilor Ward 1.
as I am City Councilor Ward 1.
You're sworn. Thank you.
He didn't do that. That's right.
Take your seat.
Can you take a picture of my phone to restart?
I did.
Oh, okay. Well, I did. I was gonna take a second one and. No. You're not moving. I thought Larry was gonna shake it. If you would, then sign it with that one there and then my phone decides.
Item C, on the agenda, we have a report from Economic Development Trust Authority, Mr. Adam Anderson, and he is here. Welcome, Adam.
Hello. Hi, council. This agenda item will kind of go along with the next one. So Mayor, I don't know how you want to handle that, if you want me to keep it completely two separate or.
Yes, go ahead and report, and then if you could stay there, and we'll work the agenda item.
Nothing makes you more nervous than having a bunch of people you can't see them. That's awesome. So the EDTA, I think you're all familiar with it. I was given the opportunity to serve on the EDTA beginning in 2022, just at the end of 2021, actually, with the resignation of Gene Dillard. I spoke with Mayor, turned in my resume, and was appointed to the position. Since joining the EDTA, we have really tried to focus on what the EDTA is supposed to be doing and what it's supposed to be doing for the city of Pryor and the citizens of Pryor. So I wanted to give you a brief update on what we have done this year. So the first part of the year, we focused on developing a comprehensive agenda, an agenda that didn't have our meetings being canceled every other month. That's something that we've committed to. The trust members and I have had discussions about it is important. We were appointed to this position. We need to be here. We need to be in attendance. And we need to have a regular agenda and discussions with our other groups. So we have had discussions with Main Street. Those ladies are in attendance. We've had discussions with the chamber. I believe we have some representatives from the chamber here. And then we set about with June, I believe. At the June meeting, we took some steps to secure funding for the EDTA. And then you guys saw a request come in front of you to fund the EDTA with $50,000 that was in the budget. Then we developed a grant program for youth sports. That is one of the things that is in our indenture, is to support youth sports for tourism, activities, bringing people into our community. Keep in mind, the EDTA operates within the entire city limits of Pryor. So our first steps were a $5,000 grant to soccer and a $5,000 grant to softball. Both of those have had positive influences on those youth sports activities, and they have led to additional things. So you think $5,000, that's really not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things, but for those two organizations, it allowed soccer to start the process of remodeling our bathrooms, to start the process of really focusing on getting lights at the stadium or at the complex. For softball, it started what will go to my next step with EDTA, which was a $25,000 grant to softball that we partnered with the Cherokee Nation, Danny Callis, and I told you these people behind me really make me nervous. 25,000 came from Cherokee Nation, 25,000 from the Jock Mayer Foundation, and 25,000 from EDTA. When we set up there at this bar and said we wanted to make a positive impact, we meant it. The best way to do that is to show activity and show involvement. That $75,000 for softball will go to put new fencing around the softball complex. Since that meeting, we have soccer has met with MUB and with electricians about getting lights put in at their complex. That all started or restarted after the EDTA engaged with those sports groups. We've also reached out to football and to baseball. Both of those organizations have other things that they are dealing with right now, but we anticipate them making a grant application. So where do I see the EDTA going? We have to stay active, we have to stay engaged, and I have to, as the chairman of the EDTA, show up at these council meetings and be engaged with each one of you. Ask what your constituents see. Ask what needs to go on in the entire city of Pryor, because that's what the EDTA is here for economic development. We are not here just to set up there on the second Monday of each month and listen to a report from Main Street and listen to a report from the Chamber of Commerce, because we could do that by going to their meetings. We're here to get things done. So I'm going to keep that brief, because I think the next one will probably take a little bit longer. But if you have any questions with EDTA, please ask me.
Anybody have questions?
Open, transparent book here.
Yeah,
Okay?
all right.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
There you go.
Can you, and you may already have this in your presentation that you're going to give, but can you please explain to the council members and the audience what the ballot said on that and what its original intent was that the voters voted on?
That is for the sales tax funding for the
Yes.
next agenda item. So if I may do that
Yes.
with the presentation.
By the way, council, that is in your packet on page 12. Very good. We'll move on to item D on the agenda. Discussion and possible action regarding requesting funds from City Council from Fund 68. On October 31st, 2022, that fund balance was $271,636.92. So requesting from City Council Fund 68 in the amount of $55,000 for fiscal year 2022, 2023 for funding of a memorandum of agreement between the Pryor Creek Economic Development Trust Authority and Pryor Main Street for services to be performed by Main Street in connection with economic development in the Main Street corridor. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion Barham, second Seaver. So to speak to that motion, Adam is here, and this information in your packet starts on page 4.
So council, for this request, which is a request from Fund 68, which is the Downtown Development Fund, you do have a memo that I did write as the chairman of the EDTA. But for the benefit of everybody here, I'll kind of go through it. Please ask me questions. If you want to stop me at any point, I'll discuss any topic that you would like to discuss. So on January 13th, the city of Pryor did create a trust indenture that created the EDTA. The trust indenture listed one beneficiary, which is the city of Pryor Creek. Among other things, we are tasked with economic and community development. That includes conducting surveys and preparing a comprehensive plan, promoting, financing, and undertaking the redevelopment of blighted areas, promoting, financing, and developing any and all public works projects, promoting, financing, and developing commercial and industrial projects, as well as developing industry within and without the territorial limits of the beneficiary, and then promoting, financing, and developing recreational sports, cultural, tourism, entertainment, and communication projects and facilities. Just before that, in March of 2019, the citizens of Pryor passed Proposition Number 1, which a copy of that that ballot is in your packet, which created a 1/20th of 1% sales tax that represented a portion of proceeds of an existing 1/2 of 1% sales tax to be made available to create new jobs and retain existing jobs in the Main Street corridor. The Main Street corridor is 69 to Elliott, 1st Street to 1st Street. That is a defined area. That is the only place that that tax can be spent. So the revenue generated from Proposition 1 is held in a separate fund noted as Fund 68. As of October 31st, as Mayor said, that was around $271,000.
Currently, it is $326,293.
So you can see how quickly that does
monthly by month.
generate revenue. For the last several months, the EDTA has been working to establish a framework in which to accomplish our obligations for economic development. Consideration was given to what other entities within Pryor were doing and if partnerships could be beneficial. In looking at that, we identified Main Street. We have Main Street and the Chamber of Commerce come each month to our meetings and present us with what their organization is doing. So when we spoke about that, EDTA, I requested that Jenny come and give a presentation about what her organization does. And that is spelled out in here. But it included a breakdown of the design elements that Main Street has completed over the last few years, facade grants, downtown planters and greenery, and the seasonal light pole banners. The most impressive thing on that listing was the promotions that Main Street does within our downtown corridor. Third Thursday is the easy one to point at and say that that is a successful program that brings people into our downtown corridor. They provide services to write and manage downtown development grants, provide architecture expertise through the Greater Main Street Network, and facilitate the recording and reporting of statistics on downtown corridor projects, vacancies, average retail price, and ownership. Through the Main Street organization, their staff attends trainings annually on preservation, revitalization, community relations, beautification, fundraising, tourism, and grant writing. That same organization allows for Main Street members to obtain free architecture design, interior design, merchandising, and window design. Those points were great and provided the needed services, and what this is really meant for Pryor economically is that from 2013 to 2001, Main Street has been a driver for $2.9 million in private reinvestment in the downtown corridor. Those are real dollars, $2.9 million in private investment. 71 building rehabilitations, 43 new businesses, and 20,000 volunteer hours. The Main Street has also been the driving force for the streetscape and has raised $206,000 for the streetscape, and just recently submitted a TAP, a Transportation Alternative Program grant application, for an additional $668,000. The funding will represent a real investment in the downtown corridor. What this meant was that the EDTA had an established entity within the downtown corridor that understood economic development, had a track record of positive results, had procedures for reviewing grant applications and managing events. They also had a strong support system with the overall Main Street program guidelines and accreditation process. This entity could provide a large portion of what the EDTA needed, and it was ready to go. When I really looked at what the EDTA needed, we needed boots on the ground that were in the community and that had the capacity and the knowledge to go to work for us from day one. I didn't want to come in here and say, oh, we need to hire somebody to do a study on this portion of downtown and pay $25,000. I wanted somebody that was already functioning and ready to go the day we asked them to. So in September, the EDTA began working with Main Street and the city attorney to develop a memorandum of agreement between the EDTA and Main Street. The MOA lists the duties that Main Street will perform on behalf of the EDTA. Those include grant writing, data gathering and reporting, community development reporting, Main Street corridor project coordination and oversight, and the oversight and management of an EDTA loan and grant program. So all of the bullet points above would be limited to occurring within the downtown corridor as directed by the ballot and the ordinance language for Fund 68. In exchange for these services, EDTA would pay Main Street a $25,000 retainer and $5,000 per month, as well as compensate Main Street for grants and written and grants received. The initial term of the MOA would be from January 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2023, at which time it will be reviewed. This will allow for subsequent renewals to coincide with the fiscal year utilized by the EDTA. To fund this, the EDTA is requesting $55,000 from the Downtown Development Fund. This fund was established via vote of the citizens as a dedicated fund for use in the downtown corridor, defined again as Highway 69 to Elliott and 1st Street to 1st Street. The MOA and Main Street bylaws state that the services provided by EDTA, by the Main Street to the EDTA, are to be used for activities within the confines of the downtown corridor. The EDTA believes that the services to be provided by Main Street will be invaluable in the EDTA's mission to provide economic development for the benefit of the city of Pryor Creek. However, we also realize that contracting for the reporting services, data gathering, and oversight services through a third party, possibly outside the city, could be done, but they would be more expensive. So, requesting the $55,000 from the MOA for the MOA will obviously reduce the fund balance by that $55,000. But I would say that the fund gains at least $10,000 per month currently, based on sales tax. So between now and June 30th, the $55,000 would be replenished in that fund. So what does this mean for Main Street? Main Street would be required to make a report to the EDTA on a frequent basis, and the EDTA will make a report to the City Council on the effectiveness of the MOA. What I really want to stress here is Main Street and EDTA have entered into this agreement. I am here now asking for funding from the city for the EDTA. I am not asking for funding for Main Street. I am asking for funding for the EDTA to implement this memorandum of agreement. I think that's an important distinction. I am not asking for you guys to, and ladies, to just hand over $55,000. I am asking to allow the EDTA to do what we were chartered to do, which is drive economic development in Pryor. So everything else in here is pretty much just a restatement of the same things that I've said. But here are some of the questions that I've had since this came out. So, will these funds be used to pay for the grant writing and award fees? The current funding request does not include any grant writing or award fees. This will be a separate proposal that would occur at the end of the MOA initial term. Main Street will have to show documentation that the grant request was initiated by either the City of Pryor Creek or the EDTA to qualify for consideration of being paid a fee. The grant must have not provided for payment of a grant writing fee or award fee to Main Street. The MOA specifically says any local grants coming from, say, Jock Mayer Foundation or Hotel Motel, they do not get paid for those grants. They do not get a fee for the application or for being awarded. Also, I will say there has to be consideration for what the grant is for. You know, Jenny cannot just leave here tonight if this is approved and start writing a bunch of grants. It has to be a grant that the EDTA has asked for or that the City Council has asked for. We're going to know going into this what is on the other side of it. Another question that has come up is, okay, we apply for these grants and we get them, how do we maintain those things that we get with those grants? That has to be considered when we ask for the grant to be written. We can't think about it 5 years down the road and then say, oh my gosh, how are we going to pay for maintaining that? We have to consider that up front.
Yeah, sustainability should be built into the grant from the very
Right,
beginning.
and that's EDTA's responsibility in this MOA. It has to be sustainable. So what specific reports will Main Street be expected to provide to EDTA? There's an ESRI report. I think Jenny has some acronym that stands for, but demographic, employment, population trends. I have examples of those. I have examples of those reports. They are provided only to Main Street organizations. We could apply directly to ERSI and ask them to allow us to have a license, us being EDTA. That's an additional cost that Main Street already has, right? Esri. But it goes deeper than that. We need available space reports. We need traffic counts. And we need to pay attention to more than just Adair Street or Rose Street. You know, we need to know, what's the traffic count? What does it look like when a business comes in? How does somebody brand new to Pryor that wants to open a small business or a large business, where do they start? That's the type of reporting that we have to have. And I'm going to be completely honest and transparent. I can't tell you today what that report's going to look like, because it is a concept, because it is something that I'm standing up here saying, as chairman of EDTA, this has to be put together. I have to be accountable for what I'm asking this council to do, which is fund this $55,000. I understand fully that I'm saying the word I have to be accountable because I'm the one standing in front of you. I'm not asking for Jenny to be accountable. She's accountable to the EDTA and the reports that she brings in. I'm accountable as chairman of the EDTA to this council to come in and say, here's what we did do. Here's the actionable items that were taken. So what management and oversight will be expected? They need to provide an overview of opening a business in Pryor, like I just said. They need to provide a contact list for opening a business. We, EDTA, Main Street, Chamber, we need to develop through this mechanism an advocacy group, a consulting group to work with building owners and to work with renters to help them navigate the building code, to help them navigate dealing with inspectors, to help them navigate dealing with engineers. I dealt with Steve, I dealt with the inspector building the bank building here. It was a good process. But we went in as a team. Some people don't understand that, and if we have a support group stood up, ready to go, that can provide that intermediary between those two groups, it will help things go a lot smoother. But we can't do that if we don't start somewhere. Why the downtown corridor? Well, simply, we must start somewhere. Downtown was determined to be a vital part of Pryor's economic development, so much so that in March of 2019, a dedicated tax was created to fund downtown economic development. EDTA's funding is limited, and Main Street is already making progress in the downtown area. Why would I reinvent that wheel? It makes sense to foster a collaborative environment and develop the reporting mechanism and oversight in that environment rather than splitting resources and focuses at this time. If EDTA stood all of this up by ourselves, you're looking at one more organization competing for the same dollars downtown, competing for the same attention from council, from the building codes, from everybody. Why split that hair any further? It also allows EDTA to utilize funds consistent with the manner in which they were voted on while accomplishing EDTA's indenture of economic development. That fund has been growing since March of 2019, or however long it took it to be implemented. And it has, to my knowledge, not been tapped.
We have tapped it some.
Okay.
We have tapped it some, but very little.
So, why do this? Why not do this in other areas right now? Well, one, this is just a start. We've got to start somewhere, like I said before. Funding is limited. When discussing how to fund EDTA's progress, we wanted it to be done in a way that did not impact the general fund. Fund 68, which we're requesting the funding from, is not a general fund item. It is not funds that can be spent elsewhere in the city for other purposes. We will absolutely, though, take the lessons that we learn, the reports that we build, and the structures that we build from the MOA and implement them in other areas as the EDTA takes action. By taking a successful program, which I believe the MOA can be and will be, and building a showcase for implementation in other parts of Pryor, we can be successful in those other parts of Pryor by replicating what we have been doing. And then, is this just a plan to allow Main Street to hire more people and increase salaries? No, simply stated. It's not EDTA's purpose with this MOA. The purpose is to provide the EDTA with needed resources and to do so by utilizing a group that is already established in downtown. Will this allow Main Street to redistribute where their other funding sources are used? Perhaps, but that's not for the EDTA to decide. I can't tell them where to spend the money that they raise from other sources. This we have control over. This we have expectations. It is funding from a vote of the people. It has to be spent in certain areas in certain ways. The EDTA is requesting that Main Street provide a service and in exchange be paid for that service with the expectation that those funds are spent on downtown development, which includes beautification, events, and tourism. So, do you guys have any questions, or ladies? Sorry.
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. Thank you for aligning the systems that were already available to the community and allowing organizations to work together to get the results that are needed. This is why the proposal was voted on in 2019. This is why Main Street was developed. Why wouldn't we align things that are supposed to be getting results? So thank you for thinking outside of the box and getting it done. It's been sitting there since 2019. So it's time to get it done.
Thank you.
For the benefit of us here that may not be up on, could you give some examples of where this money has already gone?
Which money?
In the past, that we've already spent, or even in the downtown quarter? Mainly in the downtown.
From Fund 68. Is that?
Well, I don't think we spent any money, right? So it would have to be.
Well, Mayor said we had.
Yeah, we have
some of
spent
Fund
some
68.
monies from Fund 68, and those were appropriated through EDTA for design for our streetscape wayfinding project that we currently have grants for. So that went to Planning Design Group in Tulsa, and we spent those monies with them. They were appropriated by EDTA. They were approved by City Council back, Jenny, how long ago?
Yeah, and I can even give more background to that.
Yep.
Okay.
Pre-November 21.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I think the question that I'm presenting, that I've been asked is, I'm assuming the money that you've already received or used for improvements in the downtown corridor, they'd like to know some idea where you've actually spent this money.
Yeah.
Because if you go downtown right now, basically drive downtown, you can't see any physical improvements. And I'm assuming these are inside.
So some of these improvements.
No, it's okay,
if
and I
would
can
make
add
for a
to it.
minute,
Yeah, yeah.
Are limited to the dollar amounts that they have. Right now, if they're going to do a facade grant, it is 1,500.
Yeah, max. for each one.
Max.
Mhm.
And that is part of what building owners downtown have expressed some concern with as they look at pulling off metal on the front of those buildings, what happens when they're presented with a problem behind it? And that is part of the EDTA loan and grant program that is encompassed in this, is coming up with and I did say coming up with, because that is still in formation. I think that if you're going to locate a business downtown, if it's at all reasonable, you should be able to repay those monies. At the end of the day, I'm a banker. I think you should loan money and you should be paid back money. And we want to be able to partner with Main Street for building facades to go in and say, hey, Main Street has a 50% match, I believe, 1,500. You put in 1,500, pull that metal off the front of your building, and then EDTA be able to stand behind that with funding that says, if there is damage to the wood behind that, or the block behind it, or the stone behind it, we will loan you up to, say, $15,000 on a low interest, reasonable monthly payback, that you can pull that metal off, be comfortable with it, and then stand that back up with a proper facade. As far as where their money goes today, do you
Yeah,
wanna?
yeah, I can completely. So Adam touched a little bit on it of some of the projects in his presentation, but there is pages and pages that I know some of you have gotten, yes, in that has shown things that we've done previously. But just to put a few in numbers, there's a lot of things on there that we couldn't put a quantitative value to. But here are some numbers that I feel like are kind of impressive given the budget that we've had. Not only have we been the facilitator for a grant for $206,000, we're applying for the one that's over $600,000. We've been able to receive a streetscape plan that was funded in partnership with the EDTA and the City of Pryor, that was adopted in 2021 from you guys. But all of the 2 years of evaluating with the community, all of the asking what the people of the community wanted, what they needed downtown specific to the street, how did they feel in numbers of where they wanted their downtown to look, that was all awarded and facilitated through the Main Street program. So those are just a few things. But if you want exact numbers of where things have gone in recent times. So some of the things that we've dug up is, like he said, with a limited budget, we've been able to, in the last couple of years, bring in almost $25,000 in direct facade improvements and beautification, which, given the current budget that we have, that's a significant amount. Not only have we been able to do that on top of the grants, but there's some businesses that we've been able to help facilitate coming into downtown that we would not have originally have had those tax dollars, and some of our events have been able to help them with pop-up shops to then create a brick and mortar store. And some of those examples were Bradbury & Co., Daydreamer by Candy, Robin's Nest expanded from downtown, Beach Vibes decided to move a location that was not downtown into downtown because they believed in it, and then the list can go on and on and on here. And then another thing that we were able to put a number to that people might not realize that directly affects the bottom line for our businesses is these events are not just events to have fun and throw parties. These bring hundreds and thousands of people that would not normally be shopping into downtown. And some examples of how that has affected the bottom line for our businesses and our sales tax revenue. The book exchange with our events compared to normal sales, there's been a 125% increase. Robin's Nest, 165% increase in sales, and Daydreamer by Candy, 278% increase in sales that they directly attest to our events.
Wow.
And so on top of that, we have a list of we have a whole entire letter of people downtown and businesses downtown that signed saying that Main Street and its programs have affected its bottom line significantly, and they've expanded and moved here because of the programming we have. And we have that here too. We forgot it, and then Casey had to go get it.
So I have to say, and to some of the citizens, it's so subtle. It's kind of like when your child grows and you try to put on last year's pants on them, and you're like, wow. And that's the way Pryor is. When I came to Pryor the other night, the night of when Santa was here, the Christmas, and I saw both sides of the streets, the lights, the windows painted, the lighting. I mean, it's such subtle changes because you don't come in and change all the facades at once that you don't often see it. But it's happened. You just kind of need to.
It is.
It has happened.
And if you look
strategic.
Yeah, it is. And it's all for a greater purpose, and the streetscape is something that we're breaking ground on because of the grants that we've been able to receive, and that's coming this next year. And that alone is going to bring crazy economic development to downtown. We have a building and business owner here tonight that said that some of there were 3 reasons that she wanted to purchase a building in this downtown, and one was because of the Fund 68 and belief that that was going to go towards the economic development of downtown and the renovation of downtown things such as the streetscape. And then I forgot, she told me a couple of the other ones, but they are directly affected by the projects that we've done. And so it might not be an effect that you can look at month to month and see the difference, but if you look back a couple of years, it's night and day. And also if you look internally, we have businesses that are stronger in sustaining a lot of the weather that many other communities are not. And that's because we have that program already established.
And I will say, part of what the EDTA is asking Main Street to do, and part of what I am committing to make sure is done, is a very good catalog that says, here's where we were, here's where we are. Here's how we got here. Here's what this building looked like before, here's what it looks like now. You know, it's really easy to poke fun and say, well, are you just watering flowers on Main Street? But that makes a real difference to people that drive through this town. Something that subtle. I experience a lot of additional towns around Northeast Oklahoma. I'm telling you guys, they would all kill for a downtown that is as well defined as ours is. And we're wanting to make that better. And a healthy downtown that is an economic driving force affects the rest of your town.
It will ripple
It
out.
doesn't matter if somebody is wanting to locate at Mid-America Industrial Park, if they're wanting to locate between Pryor and Salina. If they drive through your downtown and at 5:15, the sidewalks are rolled up and there is not a single car down there, that is a negative for your community. If they drive through at 5:15 or 6 or 7 o'clock, it doesn't have to be every night, but they drive through and there is an active, vibrant event going on, that makes an impact. That means that they don't have to pay for their employees to live in Tulsa and drive to Pryor. They don't have to pay for them to live in Claremore and drive to Pryor. Because quality of life, at the end of the day, does matter. Quality of life is Third Thursday. It is food trucks. It is going and getting pizza downtown. It is going to the book exchange, regardless of where you live at in the city limits or outside the greater area. It matters, that quality of life, and that's what we are working on bringing into downtown, is a quality of life that sustains and supports the rest of the community.
And downtown also, I mean, it's a national organization.
Yes.
And you,
Yes, so we are housed underneath the state program and also the national program. We're nationally accredited. We're also one of 3 communities in the state of Oklahoma that was chosen to be a mentorship program for other Main Street communities. I was also asked to speak at nationals next year. So there's things that we're doing within our community that are noticed nationally and they're noticed statewide, and they're taking notes, and that's with limited resources. So imagine if we had the resources too, you know, like they do, like other Main Street programs do.
And the way grants work is they stack on each other. So
Yes.
once you get one door open, it opens
Yes.
another door, which opens another door, and you can't open that third door without opening the first door.
Yes.
And just for people that aren't familiar with grants, there is huge accountability in all grants that you write. Well, some of the local grants, maybe not. It's like, hey, we trust you, great job,
Yeah.
give me a receipt. But for these grants, it is huge accountability. There is not a chance that you will not be accountable to EDTA and you be accountable to us, because it's written inside the grant.
An example is TSET. They suggested having one full-time person to be able to manage this grant. We don't have that. We have me, which I've been able to successfully to report to them to every standard that they've had for this grant. And then adding on to that, they stack onto each other. The TSET grant that we received was able to act as a large portion of the matching for the TAP grant that we applied for. So that's money that we don't have to take anywhere else from the city of Pryor to put into effect something that the citizens of Pryor have wanted years past.
There are also partners who partner with Main Street and also with EDTA, GRDA, Municipal Utility Board, our own Municipal Utility Board, Cherokee Nation, and Mid-American Industrial Park.
Yes, and all with letters of support of the grants that
Yes.
we complete. So it's a community project for sure.
I have a question. I have a lot of questions, and this is one of mine also. On the building rehabilitations, it says 4. People say, where are buildings being rehabilitated at? But what you're talking, it may not be a total rehabilitation, just a partial, maybe of the facade. Clarification on that
Yes.
for the audience and the people out there, so they'll help them understand.
State standards, whenever we're defining rehabilitation, that could come from facade. It could come from a complete remodel on the inside, but that's actually something we don't tap into. We focus on facades from the outside with historical preservation as a key standard within our community. So that's something that's sustainable for years to come and not something that's just trendy right now. And so, yes, that's what it is.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
I have some questions for Main Street that one of my constituents requested that I asked, and I know this was presented to some of the council. What is Main Street's current operating budget?
Adam has it here. So what we approved at the beginning of the year was $85,000 as an entire operating budget, which if you're familiar with organizations like this, that is very small. And I can even break down our funding where we get that to. We're not nationally funded, we're not state funded, misconception, we're not grant funded. So our funding comes from partnerships and fundraisers that we do. And so that's where we're.
That's the next question about fundraisers. What are the current?
We do Dancing with the Stars, which that obviously can be different. COVID's had different, Houston has been a participant.
He's back there tap dancing.
So that's a fun one, but, So we've hosted fundraisers, but also understand our fundraisers are also educational pieces. So we want to educate too. So we have our Dancing with the Stars fundraiser, we have Farm to Table fundraisers. We introduced a Love Local line that really showcases things that make our community different, and so that's a fundraiser for Main Street. We also did host a golf tournament. I don't know if he's still here or not, but that was a really great way to be able to generate funding. And then our partnerships, I would not consider that fundraising, and here's why. What our partners get in return for their investment within downtown supersedes the $250 a year that they give us. And some of that is including the things that Oklahoma Main Street provides free to our partners, because you do have a Main Street program within your community. So that could be any assistance where they bring in professionals free of charge to our partners in downtown, tax assistance, window display assistance, merchandising assistance, facade assistance. There's actually an architect that we can write for, and actually the city of Pryor is benefiting from that right now because we're doing it for the Castle Theater through Main Street, an architect to come down.
Which, by the way, I do want to make a comment. I did go to that, and they did do a lot for us with that, so I was going to bring that up, but since you mentioned it, I wanted to.
Yeah. And so that's a service that we've been able to provide that's free of charge to the city of Pryor, which would have cost thousands. So there's a lot of things behind the scenes that might not be a pretty planter that you might see in the difference of downtown, but that brings value to our community that otherwise our businesses wouldn't be able to afford, or we wouldn't have funding here to be able to carry out the plans that people want to see and they voted to see and they've voiced to seek.
And you have a board.
Yes.
You have
Oh, yes, we
meetings.
have to, yeah.
So I would just encourage the council, if any constituent calls, just encourage them, get involved in the board meetings. They're open. Educate ourselves. It's a great organization.
I will add that Main Street gets $10,000 from the hotel motel tax. That is a grant that they write. That, just for the record, that is not eligible for any of the payments under the MOA. They also have $20,000 that comes from the city's general fund. That is completely separate from the MOA, but I would say that is something that if this MOA is successful, I think we can see Main Street transitioning to a place to where, almost a quarter of their budget is coming from the city's general fund. This is an opportunity to transition away from the use of the general fund and transition this to where it is paid for by the right fund. And hopefully, if we're as successful as I think we can be, writing grants that come in that fund the EDTA and fund Main Street and doesn't involve the general fund in any way, shape, or form. That's a long-term plan.
And side note, the hotel motel tax has to be spent on tourism, and that's something we report to you guys every single year, and it's commissioned through the hotel motel board, and then we come here, so that's not just something we can use for general expenses, and so it's direct impact of tourism.
One more question. There's two more, but the other one I can figure out, calculate it myself. Money that you raise currently through memberships.
How much we get from that? So this is something that should also show you guys the impact that we have that's directly from word of mouth, which is the best recommendation and the best reviews. In the last few years, we went from 6 partners to 91 partners, and that in itself should just speak volumes too. We're doing things for our partners that they see value in, even some without being within the downtown corridor, outside of the downtown corridor, because they just believe in what we're doing. And so I would say 30 of those, 30-ish of those, I need to look at it, we do trading because we want to help them out, whether that's through videography or anything like that. But we generate about $20,000, $22,000 from our partnerships. So it's not a crazy amount. Our partnership fee is extremely low compared to a lot of organizations because we want to make sure they can afford it. We're here to help them, not hurt them, not be another stress for them.
So you had mentioned, so I'm just going to reiterate it to make sure I understood. The $55,000 is EDTAs that your board decides what's going to happen with that. You have chosen to have an MOA with Main Street.
Correct.
So it is really, the questions really should be for EDTA, not, because the trickle effect is Main Street.
Correct.
But you're the one that's asking for the money on behalf
Yes,
of EDTA.
EDTA, and me as chairman, is the one that's asking for the money. Jenny is not
She's just
asking
being
you
nice.
for the
I'm
money.
just
She's
giving
helping me support
a lot
my
of
case.
information.
Because I believe that this is the direction, and the EDTA trustees believe that this is the direction that the EDTA needs to go to perform our duties.
I've spent a fair amount of time, and I know some others have, looking at this. The concept that I'm getting from you, what I've read, seems feasible. I don't have any real red flags on that. I'm not being a naysayer. The process of accumulating and understanding and seeing how this MOA fits with this bond thing, I just haven't had enough time to finish wrapping my head around all the details. So I'm not against it, I just haven't had enough time to completely process everything and how this MOA is gonna fit into the thing. So, like I said, I'm not saying I'm against any of the ideas so far. I just haven't had time to process it.
I would say along those same lines, and Ms. Ritchie, maybe you can add something here. I believe you've had discussions with bond counsel.
I've talked with bond counsel and also with city accountant Coker. I rendered an initial opinion when asked by the EDTA that this was completely within the scope of the tax ballot language. We went to bond counsel. Bond counsel said, yeah, it can be used this way. Coker agrees as well, that it's for economic development, so it was, and falls within the scope.
I would just like I said, I'm not anti, I just want a little more time to process personally.
Happy to answer any questions at any point.
Oh, you've been very helpful, and both of you have been very forthcoming with questions. It's just with so much other stuff that we've had to go into this week, I haven't had enough time to really wrap my head around all the details and everything. And I've had some questions from some of my constituents and others within the city, and I don't want to be too hasty without considering their concerns.
I understand.
I have a few questions.
Yes, sir.
I'll start off with the city attorney. At the EDTA meetings, one of the board members was animately, if I recall right, wanting it in writing from the bond
Yeah, Mr.
representative and
Sorrell
the,
asked if we could obtain some letters. That's not a problem, but we.
were they ever obtained? Or did they
We
just,
don't have the letters from them yet, but we can certainly do that if we need to. But bond counsel's been consulted, Coker's been consulted. If I tell you something, it's the truth. And that's our positions on it.
and who actually drafted in the language on the memorandum agreement and came up with those figures?
The figures?
And how were they determined that that's the price that should be paid to them?
The figures were determined between conversations that Jenny and I had and in looking at what other organizations were paying for similar services. The MOA itself, Mr. Ritchie drafted, and then we looked at it and provided input to make sure that it really captured what we were trying to accomplish here.
And is the $25,000, what's the proper term?
Retainer?
Retainer, the $25,000 retainer, that's a one-time deal.
Mhm.
Is that renewable every year too, or is that just a one-time, $25,000 payment and that one's over?
It is a $25,000 one-time retainer for the initial MOA, which captured that we're starting it halfway through a year, and that there will be a lot of upfront things that need to be done to get to where we need to be in 6 months.
And the agreement only runs annually. It can be renewed annually, and terms can be changed. And it coincides with the fiscal year of the city.
Right.
So that we can take a look at what's happened in the past and make adjustments at that fiscal year end.
And since we're almost into January and probably halfway through the budget, or halfway through the fiscal year, this would be just for this next 6 months? It won't be retroactive back to the beginning of the
It
year?
will run January 1st, 2023 through June 30th of 2023. And one thing that I will promise you is if this doesn't work, you won't see a funding request in July,
Guaranteed.
guaranteed. I'll either have actionable items that I can show you and really show that there has been quality and quantity produced in this, or I'll kill it at the EDTA. Because it is time for action. We have to prove to the council that the EDTA is here for a real reason. And I don't have the time to put into building something like this just to play with it. This is actionable, real items. This is actionable, real items that, as stepping away from EDTA, as a president of a business that operates in Pryor, something like this needs to happen here. This is why I located my bank in Pryor. 100%, not the funding, but 100% was because of the downtown and the impact that it makes in the entire city.
So I have a question.
Well,
At the beginning, oh, sorry, Terry, go ahead. You got more.
Paragraph 7 says that the yearly retainer payment upon renewal of agreement, that upon renewal of this agreement, EDTA shall pay an additional yearly retainer unless the parties agree in writing. So to me, that's saying they're getting it every year.
As this is renegotiated annually, there could be a retainer or not. That will depend upon how the services have been performed in the first 6 months.
Okay. And then it also mentions that the agreement shall automatically renew on July 1st. So, and then shall further automatically renew annually. So when it says automatically renew, does it not have to go through approval of the process again?
It has to go through approval and process with the EDTA.
Only if it's gonna be terminated. So the concept is we implement this agreement, if it's working out, and we wanna just renew it, then we don't have to do anything, it'll automatically renew. If things need to be changed, or if they decide, this isn't working, we're gonna terminate it, then we terminate it, because there's a termination clause in there as well.
But Terry, that part only applies for 3 years. So if you'll look, it says thereafter for like terms of July 1 to June 30th in each succeeding year for 3 additional renewal periods. So EDTA has to take action to say we're terminating it.
Okay.
Or it does automatically renew. The EDTA will take action each year to review where this has been, because it won't come back if it's not working.
Okay, and my last question, and I'll yield to Lori down there, is if the purpose of this too will be to write grants on behalf of the city also?
Yes.
So if the city council or the EDTA needs to write a grant for whatever, like PYO improvement, as an example, within that Main Street corridor, that would be under the purview of what we're paying Main Street to do,
Correct.
is to write grants on behalf of the city.
The city and the
You'd have to
EDTA.
You'd have to refer it to the EDTA, because the agreement is between the EDTA.
I got you.
And Main Street. But if you said, hey, as a city council, we want to request that the EDTA implement a grant, or, initiate the application for a grant, then we refer it to the EDTA, and the EDTA would.
So that could be to our advantage also to use it that way.
And if anybody wants to help with that process, Main Street's open.
That's all I have.
It's a huge process.
Okay, so going back to the beginning of our discussion, the one word that sticks out in my mind is the word collaboration. And you saying that they already get information through studies and things that they do that the EDTA can use.
Yes.
So if we choose not to collaborate,
Got to start over.
then you're gonna have to seek other you're gonna have to find the same studies, you're gonna have to use your money
It's gonna
maybe-
cost more.
eventually, but the collaboration, using this 55,000, even though that seems like, that, we've not done that, and it's still, but the collaboration, it only makes sense, because EDTA needs, what are some of the studies that you could share, besides the architect?
Well, and this is what Main Street's purpose is. Like, this is the whole purpose of Main Street, is to develop our Main Street. So why wouldn't we?
We need traffic studies.
Yes,
There are no studies.
and they're about how much? Are those expensive?
How expensive are those?
Yeah, I don't have a number, but I can give you examples of things that even in recent years that we've done currently without even any excess of this. And one would be, we wrote a grant to the OU Institute of Quality Communities, and so that was an outside source that came down and did a 3-day study with our community, with building owners, with business owners, and they tapped into things, a pedestrian count study in the crosswalks of downtown, which has helped us significantly with grant writing. We're able to use those Esri reporting for an example. One of the reasons we got the TSET money is because we wanted to provide a safer walkability route for people to be able to get to the food bank, to the courthouse, to the health department. And so we're able to provide those numbers and statistics that we already have and that we've generated through our partners to be able to write those grants and even make it possible for us to receive that funding.
And you can use some of the same
We
studies.
can use the exact same studies. Walkability is a huge factor. Lighting is a huge factor. You know, things like, we need to know, and I know we could probably get some of this from MUB already and from Jared, but there is not one central place that somebody can walk into right now and say, I want to open a business at this address. What am I going to run into? That is part of what we have to build to move this downtown forward, because we really can't afford to have somebody locate in a building, buy the building, start remodeling it, and get in there and find out that the utilities won't support what they want to do. Some people find that out at the last minute.
That's been talked about for
Right or wrong,
years that
right or
this is
wrong,
needed.
It happens. That's where the EDTA can be influential. That's where the EDTA can make an impact. You know, so walkability studies, traffic studies, building studies, sales tax studies. You know, if we're gonna put another restaurant in Pryor, where does that fit in? What's the sales tax look like? What, if we put a restaurant in a certain place, somebody needs to go to the theater and figure out how we can partner with them to get them opened on more days, more hours, different movies, and really show that you can go from this business to this business. You can have a good family night in downtown Pryor. And that's something that 20 years ago, you couldn't get.
And there are other organizations that will benefit from this as well.
Oh, yeah.
With all of the
The
reporting
Hope
that you're
Coalition.
doing. I know Hope for sure will
Yeah.
be able to utilize.
Yeah, and we work well with the chamber, and with Houston coming on board, he's fully supportive of this specifically, but he's also supportive of our projects, and same to them as well. So it's gonna be a trickle-down effect that's going to, you know, last for years and years. And to add to that, about there's not a place that you can go to be able to get that, you know,
I said
one-stop
there
shop.
wasn't 20 years ago, not today.
Well, I'm just expanding on that. With our current resources that we've had, we do have a building inventory that is limited to square footage, building owner, average rental price. So we do have a bit of information that if someone is looking to put a business downtown, they can call us and we can provide them with, and we've done that in recent weeks with people looking to develop in downtown for housing. However, with our current resources being as limited as they are, we cannot expand to the readiness of, does it have the plumbing that it needs? Does it have the electric that it needs? Where's ready for restaurants? And so that's something that we want to include, and I know Adam has spoke on that, but the expansion of that building inventory to make sure it's a credible source for someone to be able to come to and say, okay, I can use that here, I can go here, and it be accurate, up to date, and told one thing, and so.
And it's important to note that Houston's still here, he hasn't ran yet. That Houston and the Chamber of Commerce, this is not just two entities. We have a collaborative effort between EDTA, Main Street, and the Chamber. This isn't just two entities going off to do their own thing. The chamber is part of this. The chamber is providing data and willing to provide help and support to see Main Street succeed, to see EDTA succeed, and the EDTA to see Main Street and the chamber succeed.
I'm liking what I'm hearing. I just want a little more time to work on looking how this MOA fits into some of this. The renewability clause where that's not something, because sometimes these things get slipped under the rug and they just keep renewing and it doesn't hit the agenda and we don't even get a chance to talk about it. So there's a few little things like that I want to look at a little more.
So can I say something about that, about the renewability? So let's say I don't do my job and I let it renew without saying a word. How's the EDTA gonna pay for it? The funding is not automatically renewable. EDTA can promise Jenny all the money in the world for Main Street, but if the funding's not there, we can't fund it.
So council has to
So
approve it.
the accountability for the renewing, for a retainer, for the dollar amount, all comes from, this is literally enough money to go from January 1 of 2023 to June 30th of 2023. There's not a dime of additional funding that rolls it over into July. That's 100% where the accountability comes in. Not in what happens if it renews, what happens, is the EDTA gonna pay a retainer? That will happen then, and in July, I'll have to be back in here making the case for additional funding to fund the next year.
If you'll take a look at paragraph 9 of the agreement, you know, you can have contingency clauses in contracts. Paragraph 9 says, this agreement and all extensions hereof are subject to the receipt by the EDTA of funding from the city of Pryor Creek on an annual basis, and such an amount is sufficient to satisfy the EDTA obligation to pay. So the council can actually pull the plug on this thing at some point just by not funding it.
There is true accountability.
Checks and balances.
Checks and balances. And I think all these questions are great. This is an open and transparent process. I've had the question, have you tried to rush this through? No. I have had the opportunities to work with Mr. Ritchie, to work with Jenny, to work with Mayor, to discuss it with council, to discuss it with trustees. I think this is a well thought out proposal. And at the end of the day, I can't show results because we haven't been given the opportunity. That's the reality.
I see that this gets us down the road,
It does.
helps to get us down the road of where we need to be. One of the reasons we have an EDTA is because we have this Fund 68, is because we have this Downtown Corridor Fund. So it's an avenue by which citizens are represented through use of these funds. So the citizens own the funds. Citizens give direction to council, give direction to EDTA, and ultimately direction and partner with our Main Street. So,
It's true synergy.
yes.
My question is, would not be coming into effect until January? Would it be wrong just to table it and bring it up this next meeting? We'll all have a chance to think. It won't affect, like I said, I just need a little more time to process it, and it won't affect when it would start.
So in order for them to start January, her brain and their brain are going to be going 24/7. Like you would not even believe. This is gonna open up so many opportunities for them. And if we wait till January 1, then now things aren't gonna happen until February, because we've now postponed it.
And it's still the same amount, $55,000. So
Yeah.
why would we not want to go invest it right now?
Well, it's already their money anyway.
Right.
We're just approving them.
Exactly.
spending
But I'm just
our-
saying, instead of waiting till January, I mean, yeah, let's just
We're
approve
finally
it and let
getting
it go.
organizations working together.
Yeah.
So excited.
Collaboration.
Awesome.
Other comments, questions? We have motion and second on the floor. We've had lots of discussion. Thank you so much for your time. No other comments or questions? Call for vote.
Chipwood,
Yes.
Barham,
Yes.
Gantier. Abstain. Seaver,
Yes.
Lamar,
Yes.
Nance,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Motion carries.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Go get them.
Can we raise Dan, please?
Meredith and Jenny and
Good job.
Wonderful job, you all. Great work.
We have a power outage out here on Steve Boulevard, that's up for me. I've got to go set cones and barricades out.
power outage where, sir? On Berry, Steve Berry? Thank you, buddy.
49th Street.
On 49th Street.
Boulevard.
Okay, thank you.
Nobody tuned in to watch tonight, so
Overloaded this part of the circuit.
That's the Walmart Expressway. We're in item E, discussion possible action to declare the former Pryor Creek Police Department property located at 214 South Mill Street with a legal description of Pryor Original Block 61, lots 5, 6, 7, and 8 surplus property. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion Smith, second Chitwood. Discussion?
have they vacated this yet?
In the process.
Have we gotten a certificate of occupancy for the new building yet?
Yes, a temporary certificate of occupancy. Is that not right?
That's correct.
It's temporary certificate of occupancy, so there's a process, yes.
Okay.
Other questions, comments? Call for vote.
Barham,
Yes.
Gantier, Yes.
Seaver,
Yes.
Lamar,
Yes.
Nance,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Chipwood,
Yes.
Motion carries. Item F, discussion possible action to approve solicitation of sealed bids for the purchase of the former Pryor Creek Police Department property located at 214 South Mill Street with notice by publication in a local legal publication specifying bids be submitted to the Pryor Creek, City of Pryor Creek City Clerk due January 6, 2023, to be opened and read at 2 p.m. on that date in City Council Chamber, and further specifying that the city reserves right to reject all bids as is in best interest of the city. Is there a motion?
Motion. Second.
Motion Smith, second Chitwood. Discussion? Hearing none, call for vote.
Gantier, Yes. Seaver,
Yes.
Lamar,
Yes.
Nance,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Chipwood,
Yes.
Barham,
Yes.
Motion carries. Item G, discussion possible action regarding the approval of ARPA funds from Fund 05 to be transferred as needed to Fund 87 for the purpose of completing our emergency center library expansion projects contracted financial obligations. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion Chitwood, second Smith.
Question, would this go along with the one on the addendum that deals with the same subject?
I have the addendum listed to come next. I would remind council that in 2020, and I put this on your desk, it was decided by council at that time that any of the funds that were used from, at that time, the CARES Act funding, and that would include today Fund 05 and the ARPA funding, that any of that funding would come before council for approval before anything was done, before any of that money was spent. This comes on a council agenda today because the intention, I believe that the intention from council was that we use those funds instead of borrowing funds from Municipal Utility Board, using these funds instead of borrowing the funds from Municipal Utility Board so that we can get the finish line on these projects. And there's plenty of funding in the ARPA funding to be able to do that.
So Mayor, I have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
This document that you said was on the table,
Yes.
this is from 2020. I have no idea what this is, so can you explain to me?
Yes, in
nutshell, what this
2020, we received what was called CARES Act funding, and it was in the amount of $722,000 some odd dollars. We used some of that funding for different things, but on the second page of that I have highlighted in yellow were the guidelines that council approved so that funding could be used. Some of it was put in reserve, and then the last two items on that explained how that funding could be approved through council. Item 4, there it says amounts over $5,000 can be petitioned to council for approval, then to be expensed from the CARES Act funding. So this is the same guideline that applies to our Fund 05, which still has some of the CARES Act funding and also has the ARPA funding.
And this has to do, back in 2020, about some of that money was used towards the payment or for the approval for processes on the building construction?
No.
Tied in with?
No.
Okay.
There's not any tie from that action in 2020. Thank you, Terry. There's not any action from the 2020, that document that tied anything to this project.
Okay, so this is to transfer funds underneath that old terminology to this new one. Okay.
Yeah. I just put that out here just to remind council and for our new council members that there was a decision back in 2020 that funds could not be spent from that fund unless council had purview over it and approved it.
Wait. Yeah, my question regarding the other one that's on the addendum, though, that last line of that wasn't pertinent to that. That's making sure that we don't have any new expenses pertaining to the actual expenses of, of the library and all that. That doesn't come through us first.
Yeah, so let's deal with the addendum.
All right, thank you.
When we get to the addendum. This gives us the opportunity to use these funds to transfer the Fund 87 for the purpose of completing that, getting to the finish line on that project. Other questions or comments? Call for vote.
Seaver,
Yes.
Lamar,
Yes.
Nance,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Barham,
Yes.
Montier.
Yes.
If you could now go to the addendum, there are two items there. Item 1, discussion and possible action regarding using available ARPA funds to pay for the current indebtedness of the city regarding construction of the police and fire station as well as remodel of the library. No new expenses pertaining to these projects will be allowed without prior approval of city council. Is there a motion?
Motion. Second.
Motion Chitwood, second Smith. This was a demand to come to council by 3 signatures, and that's the reason why it is on the agenda tonight. Discussion.
Are there any new expenses that are foreseen?
No. I don't foresee any new expenses at all. We are contracted to complete and get to the finish line. The next item that's on the addendum is a pay application, and that pay application is on there because we are going to in order to pay that, we're going to need to use ARPA funds. So that's the reason why it's coming to council.
Do we have a projected completion date that everything?
We're about
will be-
99% completed. They're finishing the punch list and had a meeting yesterday talking about the punch. There were some items that they considered adding that were not on the final plans. The final plans were very incomplete, and so we're continuing to deal with some of those issues. But we're about 99% complete. Library is, I was in there yesterday, and we had some painters in there. We had some other folks in there that were doing some finishing up. I haven't been in the police fire station in the last few days, but we've had some last-minute concrete work that we're doing. Buddy Glenn mentioned that a while ago. So we're getting to the finish line. I did get another pay application that was emailed to me today for the month of December.
From Willowbrook?
From Willowbrook, and we'll be considering that one coming up at council meeting, either next council meeting or the first council meeting in January.
And that will be the final bill?
No, that will not be the final bill. So the pay applications come in monthly. Excuse me. They come in monthly, and they're reviewed, and then they're paid. So
The punch list of all the things that needs to be fixed does the council have a copy of that? Has anybody ever seen a copy?
CMS Willowbrook has a copy of the punch list. I'd be very happy to supply that if you'd like to see it.
Yes.
I would like a copy of it. I think, I'm speaking for myself, I would like a copy of it, yes.
I
Sure.
would as well, please.
Can get it. I'll have it emailed to y'all hopefully tomorrow.
Cool. Give you 2 weeks to read it.
That would help, because there's a lot of stuff.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Call for vote.
Lamar,
Yes.
Nance,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Chipwood,
Yes.
Barham,
Yes.
Gantier,
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 2 on the addendum, discussion possible action regarding approval of application and certification for payment number 21 dated November 3rd, 2022 to CMS Willowbrook Incorporated in the amount of $499,485.48 from Fund 05 COVID Reimbursement 2020.
I'll make a motion.
Motion Chitwood, second Smith. You have that pay application in the packet. You can see on item 8, the current payment due, $499,485.48. I want to go back to the last page of that, all those items. Look on column E and drop down the column E to the grand totals number, which is 525,774.21, and you multiply that by 5%, which is a deduction, which is retainage. That is 26,288.71. That's how you get to the total of 499,485.48. This is payment application number 21. So 1 through 21 is what we have dealt with throughout the project, and there will be a few more coming our way as time goes by.
I have a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
First of all, is there anybody here from CMS Willowbrook tonight to answer any questions about this document?
No.
There's a lot of stuff on here and a lot of questions that, of course, I'm being thrown in the middle of this, but I've seen this buildings and I totally think things have been messed up. And there's a lot of questions that I have on here that I would like to find out from somebody to clarify why and what these are on the problems with, or what they are. For example, and again, this is just a preliminary thing of looking at this, but there's on here for a museum sign for a little over $1,000, and I was down there today and there's no sign, and the librarians never even knew there's supposed to be a sign, but we're getting billed for one. And it's talking on here, and again, there's several things, but for example, flagpoles, $10,000, I think, for flagpoles. And then there's other billing on here for additional flagpoles. Well, how many flagpoles are there? There's one at the library and 3 at City Hall, or across the street. I just have a lot of questions about why we're being billed for this stuff.
Okay, I think what I would advise is perhaps we would table payment of this pay application until we have the opportunity to scrutinize every line item and bring them here and ask them the question.
I agree.
Is that what you'd like to do?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Would you like to do that on all 21 of the pay applications, even the ones that we have already done? Those items will go through an audit and an investigation because we've demanded that.
Well, those have already been paid, and
Yes.
they are going to be going through the audit process, I would assume.
Yes.
But, yes. But I personally would like to talk to somebody about some of these things before I am comfortable in voting.
Well, that certainly can happen. I would encourage council to table this motion.
Do we need to make a motion for that? I mean, I'll do that.
To table?
Yeah.
Yes.
Motion table, or I can amend mine.
However works for you is fine with me.
Okay.
If you want me to make the motion, I will. If you want to, it's fine.
We just need to amend.
What's better for you, Eva?
Okay,
Yeah, I'll amend my motion to table line item 2 on the addendum.
okay.
Second.
Okay. Second to table Chitwood and Smith. Any other discussion?
Is this going to be at a regular city council meeting, or is this going to be a special city council meeting? And if it's a special one, do we happen to have a date?
I would say that we should do it at a regular city council
Okay.
meeting, which would be in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Me personally, Mayor, would not to be necessary to question every single thing on here, but maybe read through it, see what stands out, and maybe other council members may have the same thing. I don't know. But I just think there's some things on here that's questionable. And
So.
I would also
so
like to know.
Yeah, CMS will be able to answer those questions. I could attempt to answer some of those questions today, but it would be more appropriate for
Right.
them to answer those questions.
Because they're kind of in charge of what was going on over there.
And we're paying them a fee. They're our construction manager.
Mayor, can I make a suggestion if you're going to pursue this course?
Yes, sir.
I think your motion to table should have added to it that the council identify any questions that they have of the items that are being questioned, and that information be provided a week in advance of the meeting to the people who are going to be questioned, so that so it can be a productive discussion.
Thank you, council. That's
Speed
very,
up the
that's
next
very
city council
appropriate.
meeting.
Well, you call somebody in and you start asking questions, and then they have to go check it out and understand why they, so it's better if you have a hit list so that they can adequately answer you.
So council, if you'll send email to me with your
You'd
questions.
amend it so that the council to submit questions a week prior to the meeting.
Do that no later than next Monday.
Do you amend your motion?
I will amend my motion.
Amend your second?
Second. Yes, sir.
I was waiting for everybody to talk.
Other comments? Call
Thank
for,
you for considering that.
absolutely. Call for vote?
Yes.
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 Motion carries. All right, we're back to the main agenda, Mayor's Report, item H. Discussion possible action to remove from the table item 4A from the November 15, 2022 meeting. That item is actually item I. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion Chitwood, second Gantier. Call for vote?
Yes.
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 Motion carries. Item I, This is the item 4A from November 15. Discussion possible action regarding a request from the Castle Theater Ad Hoc Committee for a sum of $30,000 from General Repair and Maintenance Account 02-201-5091 to be paid to Dawson Roofing for Castle Theater Roofing Project. Other bids were requested from McGill Roofing, AAA Property Restoration, LLC, and Allwine Roofing, but none were received. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion Smith,
Second.
second Barham. We have those from our ad hoc committee who are here tonight. A couple of them, one of them has, looks like has left. We have Brent Taylor is here, Jenny LaFave is here. We have Jack Hardy who is here, and he's going to come to the microphone, and he's going to present, and also Terry Lamar is on this committee. Please come.
Wow. What you guys have done already. I think this project is part of downtown, obviously, part of the Main Street corridor, part of the stuff you guys were talking about earlier. From our previous report, you know that this committee, this ad hoc committee, is committed to finding a solution to the Castle Theater to save that building. Our feelings backed up by other people that we've talked to about the concerns that we might lose a building which has been described as one of the most endangered historical buildings in Oklahoma. That you've heard earlier that we had the architect here. He spent at least a half a day looking through the building, taking pictures, measuring things, making notes, and he described the building as a cool building. So I think he probably wasn't the only one that said that, but from him, after he looked at it, and we're looking forward to his report, which will probably come to us probably after the first of the year. The discussion here is about the Dawson bid. That's for emergency repairs to the roof and also to the facade of the building, also to some drainage areas that need to be fixed, because in addition to having water coming down from the top, there's water that comes down a downspout and runs right back into the building. So we wanted to get that taken care of so that we can move ahead without further damage to the building. One thing that I wanted to point out on the bid so that you guys understand this, there's a line down at the bottom of the bid form that says that if there is any decking that needs to be replaced on the roof, that it would be done so at the rate of $100 a sheet. So full disclosure, the $30,000 very possibly is not the bottom line. At this point, at least, we're asking you to approve that bid so that the work to stop the damage can begin. Part of that's also cleanup and painting of the entire exterior of the building, sealing of that building so that there's no more damage, reasonably, no more damage can occur. This may be a separate item, but we're also asking you to extend the life of the ad hoc committee from December 2022 to March 30, 2023.
Yes, that is the next item on the agenda.
Oh, okay, all right. One thing that I'd like to repeat from our previous report, which was presented to you last meeting, I think, in print form, we do not intend to nickel and dime you on this project. We intend that this will be the last time that we'll be coming to you asking you for money until we have a plan, until we have somebody that is going to use the building, and until that we have figured out a financing pattern to get that accomplished. So with that in mind, I would encourage y'all to approve that $30,000 funding.
Thank you, Jack. I might ask a question, Jack, to the committee, and whoever can maybe answer the question. We've had someone from the Historical Society come, and they've looked at the building. Is that correct?
We've had, so Oklahoma Main Street contracts with Method Design Group out of Tulsa, and they specialize in historic buildings, and so that's something that's free of charge.
So that's with Oklahoma Main Street. That's not with the Oklahoma Historical Society. That's,
No, Oklahoma Main Street and SHPO is really closely related.
okay.
And a lot of the projects that Josh with Method does coincide with some things that SHPO, the Historic Society of Oklahoma does. But it's not. It's actually a separate group out of Tulsa that's all they do, so.
So this roof repair is to kind of stop the bleeding of the deterioration of the building, at least for the meantime.
Exactly.
Is that in the plans to certify it as a historic building?
Yeah, do you want me to come to the microphone? I don't, or.
Please do.
Sorry. So that's something that so on Monday, actually, we're attending a webinar to give us the best direction. So I was always under the impression that it was applied for in the past and denied. However, after talking directly to the people at the SHPO office, the State Historic Preservation Office, they said that there was never a complete application turned in, and that it was just something that, they sent the blank application, nothing was turned in, and so it's a blank slate if we want to approach it, they said. The guidelines of what makes a building historical is it needs to be 50 years old, which we all know the Castle Theater and a lot of the downtown buildings fall into that. So we're going to approach registering it as a historical building. We're going to apply, as well as our entire downtown district as a historical district. But that's something separate from the Castle Theater, that's Main Street, but we are going to attack that as a group, so.
Well, going forward, are you planning on making it back to the original building of the theater, or are you just putting it back together the way it is now, which is just a place for the kids to hang out at an event?
I don't want to speak for anyone, but I know that right now there's a bunch of different things that are going out there. A lot's going to be determined by the architect completing his recommendations and his design, basically scope of design. But I don't think that we're there yet to say that we know what it's going to be utilized for. I think if that's correct with the rest of my committee here. But right now, we're just trying to figure out what we do know about the building structurally to be able to do whatever with it.
I was there, and I was very impressed with the whole thing, with the Main Street involvement, the architect. I mean, I would love to see the report from the architect, because I'd hate to put $30,000 and he come back and say, there's no way to save it, it's structurally unsound. That's a concern. But I was very impressed with the level of professionalism that group did. They were climbing in holes, and so I think they're going to give us a good report, accurate report. So I'm eager to see what that report is. I wish we had it before we spend money, because like I said, I don't want to spend $30,000 and go back and say, well, we can't. But another thing I want to say, there were some people there that had some really good ideas on what could be done with that place. I was impressed with that as well.
I don't want to take this over. Jack was very much spearheading this. I just wanted to answer the Main Street question, and I can answer the questions, but I don't want to step on those toes. But-
So,
I think the question before the city council ought to be, do we actually have the money to spend out of the budget?
Thank you, Jenny.
Jack, a question for you. How do you feel about the roof? I mean, do you feel like, before we decide if we have money or not? I'm just curious.
My understanding of the roof situation is that there's a barrel part of the roof, which is the central part of the roof, and then there are two alleys that run down either side, which the the water runs off that barrel into those alleys and then to the downspouts. And the problems are in those alleys. And those, the barrel part of the roof is metal. The alleys are roofing material. So over time, that roofing material's deteriorated to the point where there is, anytime you have rain, there's going to be water inflow into the building. It makes perfect sense to me to spend a little bit of money. I don't, based on any conversation I've had, there is no concern about the structure. And if I mean, I can look at structures. There's, you know, it's native stone. There's a few little places where individual stones up on the top have worked loose. Otherwise, there's no cracking anywhere in that. Whoever built that thing
Knew what they were
knew
doing.
what they were doing. But I think for us, at least at this point, as somebody said, we want to stop the bleeding. We want to stop water inflow into the building so that it doesn't deteriorate further. I have no idea how long it will take to actually start renovation of the building. Part of that is liable to depend on who our tenant is, who uses the building in the future. So, and right now, I think another part, for me at least, is that the expenditure of what amounts to an infinitesimal amount of money compared to what's being projected as being needed to fix it up and make it usable again, shows good faith on the part of us as we're looking to other people to say, you know, we've done what we could to stop what's been going on there so that we have a building that you all can use. So in effect, it's a good faith effort on our part to see that happens.
When you're in the building and visually looking at it, the major roof leak areas are probably in the southeast corner, up on the top, and along the entire south wall. And that's where the majority of the leakage comes from. And the longer the building sets and gets more wet on the inside and the roof gets worse from that up top, you're losing your potential for the saving of it.
Yeah.
Because if it's just like any other city building and other city facilities that we have, and that is part of our problem we have, I feel like, within the city government of Pryor, is that we have all this infrastructure, but we don't take care of it until it's too late. And then you just let it set and set and set, and then it's way too late, or it costs way too expensive to fix. There's an issue right now out at the rec center that's been neglected for a long time, that's gonna cost maybe over $1 million to fix. We are gonna have to face looking at sometime in the future too. Estimated $1 million alone on that. So the point is, I think the city lets our own infrastructure deteriorate, and we don't care about it until it's too late. And if we have any potential at all to save that building, I think $30,000 to patch the roof to keep the leaks from happening any further is probably a pretty good deal.
And that building's been leaking for a very long time.
Yep.
Anybody that has hosted a dance or prom knows what I'm talking about.
The writing on the wall up there, everybody writes on the wall when they do something there. The last writing is from 2016, so I think everybody agreed that was probably the last time they were there. But there's no heat in the building, so freeze-thaw does what freeze-thaw does. And So we're trying to cut that off at this point.
And I have a question for Terry or whoever in the group. Would waiting to the architect's report cause any substantial or significant worsening of what's going on? Just to see what they say?
Maybe not from the standpoint of timing on the architect's report, but the architect's report is just the architect's report. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything to fix the building. It just tells us what the architect's perception was based on all the measurements that he took. They had a very sophisticated piece of equipment there that basically would totally map that building and allow them to produce 360-degree views, even figure out how thick those exterior walls is. So.
Yeah, that little device was impressive.
I bet it wasn't cheap either.
I don't even want to go there. I don't even want to know.
But no, until we got the architect's report, if that's all the time we had to wait, I would go, hey, that's fine, that's 30 days. But that's not what we're looking at to actually get anything done. His report's going to say what he found, what his conclusions are, what his recommendations are going forward. And so actually doing a construction project to bring that building back is way down the line. So that's why I think we want to get this roof work done at this point.
I can kind of vouch for what Terry said, because emergency management used to use it upstairs, and so I've actually worked there, been in the crawl space up above. I've seen the damage and I've seen the neglect because the city wouldn't spend any money when we had emergency management in the building actually using it, and then the kids downstairs were having their school stuff, and the floor would be, there'd be water down there whenever it rained. So I've seen the damage over the years and the neglect the city used until they finally built this building and we moved over here.
And that's not the only building and facility that we have that's showing its age with this repair too, that we're gonna have to face at some point in the future too, in a lot of other buildings, and that's gonna cost money the longer you let it go.
But going back to my original question a while ago, do we have the money?
Yes,
to cover this?
what we have right now, we funded $100,000 in that 5091. That's general repair and maintenance. We have spent to date, 26, about 25,000 or so, a little over 25,000. We have $74,337 in that fund.
And we have one bid that was probably gotten back in September, maybe, or October-ish, somewhere back in there, and it's only good for 30 days. And we went to the contractor and asked them, we're beyond that, we want to bring it up this month, will you still honor that same price? And as of this meeting, yes, they are going to honor that price. We don't know, of course, what's going to happen next month with price increases on building materials, et cetera. So right now, it's still at that $30,000, but we don't know if they'll honor that in the future.
It's at $30,000 plus whatever decking material they
Yes.
may have the need to use. Of course, they're not gonna be redecking the whole thing.
Right.
They will need to use some.
Right.
Mr. Mayor, question.
Yes.
Would it be prudent, supposing this passes, that we put a cap on it, that if they get to where there's a lot of plywood, since we do have a limited amount, that if it gets above a certain amount, that it would have to come back for the additional?
Does this committee have any answer to that question?
Well, me personally, I would think that if you've got the contractor up there and the roofer tearing it all up to work on, and then you have that issue, and you're gonna have to wait another 15 or 20 days or 30 days for a council meeting to decide whether you're gonna do it, they're gonna just walk away from it.
Yeah.
I mean, if they
And
got
leave it
100
open.
sheets of plywood, that's bad. How much is that gonna, I'm just saying, I mean, we do have a limited amount.
Just to have a cap on.
Yeah, I think if this does pass, there should be some cap. I mean, because we don't want to overspend what we don't have.
So, so there's also an item I think we should consider. Let's say we do what we need to do to stop the bleeding or stop the leaking on the roof. That doesn't mean that when the building is renovated at some point in time, there's not going to be additional
Right.
roofing work done.
I'm understanding that that's
So-
probably the case.
I would,
Yeah,
I would
so,
imagine.
all of
so,
those
so
years.
Mr. Dawson is, he's taking a risk at saying I can do that for $30,000.
Right.
And I think that's admirable for our local roofing man
Exactly.
to do that. I would personally be in favor of going ahead and taking this action and trying to do what we can do to stop the water from getting in the building. That's my opinion.
Would we recommend a cap of 35,000?
The cap of 35?
Yeah.
We could, I guess we could, we could recommend anything like that, I
When
suppose.
you're talking $100 a sheet, I wouldn't think it would cost another $5,000 in additional fees for 5 or 6 sheets of plywood.
I mean,
I don't know.
we don't know. I'm not a construction man. Brent, do you have any idea about that?
No, the roof needs fixed. I've got real estate. The first thing, I do is look at the roof. If you don't have a good roof, you're not gonna get anybody in there. You gotta stop the damage now. As far as extra sheeting and stuff, I know Matt, he's gonna treat you right. I wouldn't worry about it. You can put a cap on it if you want, but, I think if he's, bidded at that, he's got a pretty good idea. I think he's been on it multiple times, what he needs to do.
I hear council recommending to put a cap of 35,000. Is that what you
Leave it at
want?
30.
Leave it at 30. He's gonna do what he needs to
Just
do.
a suggestion.
Matt's done all the work on our building ever since we've had it. If there's a problem, he comes back and fixes it. He doesn't ask any questions, he fixes it.
Yeah.
From other people I have understood that we've used in the past, did the work, left town, took the money, and never showed up when things went bad, so.
Yeah, that's not him. Council, we have a motion and a second. We've had significant conversation and discussion. Are there more questions? Any more discussion?
What was the final decision about a cap, yes or no, or in that motion or not?
I didn't really get a yes or no from, I would recommend that we go with the motion at $30,000 and understand that there's going to be additional, depending on sheets of decking that he has to use. Unless anyone would want to, if you want to amend it, I'd say amend it. Can we amend it?
Excuse me, the person that made the motion would have to amend. Person that's second would have to amend the second.
I don't hear that. Call for vote.
Chipwood,
Yes.
Barham,
Yes.
Gantier,
Yes.
Seaver,
Yes.
Lamar,
Yes.
Nance,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Motion carries. Item J,
Yeah.
discussion, possible action regarding extending the time of service of the Castle Theater Ad Hoc Committee to March 30, 2023. Is there a motion? Motion
Second.
Gantier, second Chitwood. Discussion.
Sounds like they need it.
Sounds like they need it. Call for vote.
Barham,
Yes.
Gantier,
Yes.
Seaver,
Yes.
Lamar,
Yes.
Nance,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Chipwood,
Yes.
Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, it's about 8:15. We've been going for 2 hours and 15 minutes. I'd recommend a recess of 10
Yes.
minutes and convene back here at 8:25.
You read my mind, Mayor.
See you in the morning.
deal.
I know, it's hard to.
Gotta take
hard to keep it
number
all
A
straight.
off the list anyway.
Well, thank you very much.
That's right. We
I
gotta take that
hope
off the
somebody
list.
does some living in downtown.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and begin.
Apartments and stuff. There you go. Sorry.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go ahead and begin with item K on the agenda. Discussion and possible action regarding authorizing City of Pryor Creek Street Department to invoice Municipal Utility Board $19,050 to deposit into Fund 14 for additional work performed by Dunham's Asphalt Services Incorporated on the 2021 street maintenance project. The work and the amount is due to unforeseen and required components of utilities relocation during the project. The documentation for this amount is the 4 items on page 2 of application and certification for payment 5 RET from Dunham's Asphalt Services Incorporated, which is in your packet. That's on page 117 in your packet.
Motion.
Motion. Gantier, second. Chitwood. During that project, and Buddy is not here to speak
Yeah,
to
he's
it.
here.
Is Buddy still here? Oh, Buddy.
He came back.
He came back. That's great. That's great. So, during that project, both Buddy and Steve Powell can attest that there were unforeseen items there so that these next 3 items on the agenda have to do with this. So, billing Municipal Utility Board, there's also a bill from Municipal Utility Board on item M. But this is being completely transparent and forthright with the citizens' funds is what this is. Because there were additional items that were Municipal Utility Board items. We'll invoice them. And then there were items that were city items, and they will invoice us. And so that's the reason for these 3 items. Anybody have any question on item K? Hearing none, call for vote.
Gantier,
Yes.
Seaver,
Yes.
Lamar,
Yes.
Nance,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Chipwood,
Yes.
Markham.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item L, discussion possible action regarding authorizing to pay Dunham's Asphalt Services Incorporated on the 2021 street maintenance project, the amount of $14,342 from street asphalt overlay account 14145-5410 for unforeseen and required components of utilities relocation and street patching as documented. This action is necessary to close out the job and pay all we owe to the contractor.
Motion.
Motion, Gantier, second, Smith. So if you take all of the council-approved items, that's pages 104 to 107, that comes to $715,742 and some cents. You take the pay apps, they come to $730,084.75. So the project overran, but it overran because of these unforeseen items that they needed to get repaired as they moved forward. So in order to pay them what we owe them, we're required to bring that to council and ask to do that. Does anybody have any question about that? Mr. Powell, would you like to speak to that? Or
I'll speak quickly because I don't know that unless anybody has any questions for it. I'll just indicate that we were very pleased with Dunham's performance on the project. They were very thorough. I want to make a point that this contractor did not overrun on any items. The $14,000 number is an accounting issue that we've got regarding prior approved amounts that were approved presented by the board or presented by the contractor to us, and we presented to the board. So this is not a $14,000 overrun by the contractor. This is in the attempt to be as transparent as possible. This is where we have approved this contractor to do this work up to his 100% amount. So that's, I'll try and answer any questions, but this is not necessarily an overrun from the contractor. He didn't go out and do work he was not directed to do.
Yeah, that is correct. He did not do that, and he represented himself very well to us and to the contract. Thank you, Steve. Other comments? Call for vote.
Seaver,
Yes.
Lamar,
Yes.
Nance,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Chipwood,
Yes.
Barham,
Yes.
Gantier.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item M, discussion and possible action regarding payment to the Municipal Utility Board for 3 invoices totaling $20,968.27 from street asphalt overlay account 141455410 for materials only, which were needed due to for unforeseen and required components of the 2021 street maintenance project.
Motion. Second.
Motion Gantier, second Chitwood. This is actually Jared's area, but I will speak to why this came up. Probably the most complex part of the street rehab project that we did this last year was the drainage work up at Third and Fairland. Was what we refer to it as. It was actually an area that extended along Third Street from Fairland to the west. There were unforeseen items that were encountered at Third in Oklahoma. We ran into water line this was a sizable stormwater project. This was not a small diameter pipe. This was a 24-inch, 30-inch pipe, so it takes up a lot of area, the subsurface area of that. You've got a proposed grade. You open it up, and there's a water line, and there was a gas line, and some other things that were in the way right where we needed to put it, and so there wasn't a lot of leeway to move our storm sewer and still make it work. Water flows downhill, of course, and so we had to deal with MUB and see if we could get them to move some of their utilities to make room for our storm sewer that had to go in the same areas. That was done. That was done in an efficient manner. Instead of duplicating services, we opened up the trenches for them. Our contractor that was doing the stormwater work opened up the trenches for them. They did their work, what they're good at, and then we closed that trench back up. Obviously, that trench was wider because of the work they had to do than what we had proposed in the original contract for putting the storm sewer in. It was considerably wider. If you go to that intersection, you can still tell that the patch for the street was quite large compared to the rest of the trench work that was done along there. But it had to be done. It had to be done to make room for the stormwater. And sometimes you just get down in these areas and you find out there's things in the way. But if there's any other questions specifically about those items, I'll let Jared talk about them.
We might add that Municipal Utility Board is only billing us for materials. They're not billing us for labor or use of equipment or any of that, any of those items.
I also might add that this is an issue that we've run into for years about who does the best kind of work. You know, street department does the best street work. Utility board does the best water leak repairs, sewer line work, that type thing. And so when we use the crews doing the things that they do best, we need that cooperation and coordination between them so that we're patching those. We have run into these things several times where we've encountered, like in the milling operation for a street, we go in and strip off the asphalt to put down new asphalt, and lo and behold, right below the surface, we've got this concrete patch that's been in there for 10 years. Well, that concrete has to be handled differently than the asphalt, but you don't know it. You didn't know it because it was covered up. And so what we want to try to implement, what we've been trying to implement for a long time, is let MUB open up the trench and do what they need to do with the water line leak or sewer line problem or whatever it might be. New sewer tap, new water tap, and then contact the city and let us do the road work, which is what we're good at as well. So I'll speak for the guys that we're getting that coordination going on. It seems to be working well. And we just took advantage of a asphalt contractor that was in town to go back and fix some of these things that historically had been a problem for us in the past. And so we got a lot of those things straightened out. And I'd like to think that the next time we do this for street repairs, we'll do the same thing. We'll find some more, and we'll use the contractor here so he doesn't charge us for mobilization and overhead and all that just to get here. He's already here for something else, and we'll utilize him to the best we can.
I'd like to add a comment to that, Steve, and thank you. As street committee chair, I've watched this project, and this is one of those projects that been neglected for years, and I'm glad to see it come around, and you guys actually get together and made this come through. So thank you.
So if I may add, I know it's been late and everybody's ready to go home. I would say, like Steve.
In case you don't know this man, this is
We all know him.
This is Jared Chris.
Sorry, Terry, general manager, EDC. Buddy and I have an agreement, like Mr. Powell mentioned. Buddy's boys are great with concrete and asphalt. My boys are great with utilities. So when we do a street cut for anything, we fill it back up and we give it to Buddy, then he bills us after it's done. So we got a good working relationship with Buddy, and I appreciate Buddy and his staff. Kind of like tonight, we had an issue at Walmart. Everything's back on, thanks the Lord. No more calls from Bentonville, but we're good.
Thank you.
I love it. Street department, all the cities, all the city departments, we have a good working relationship. And if we do any work for the street department, anybody or cities, anything, I just want my material back. Because I pay my boys to be here, so I just, equipment, that's the citizens, so all I request is that we, kind of like we're doing tonight.
And they have that ongoing conversation, day by day sometimes, and it works well.
Yeah, it works good, so thank you.
Thank you, Jared. We've had a motion second, we've had discussion and explanation. Any other comments? Call for vote?
Lamar?
Yes.
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Yes.
Barfield?
Yes.
Gantier?
Yes.
Seaver?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item N, discussion possible action calling for an audit and investigation concerning construction of the new police and fire station as well as remodel of the library. This investigation and audit would include but not be limited to the following: plans, bonds, change orders, affidavits, contractor forms, and all paperwork and affairs related, but not limited to the above-mentioned projects, as well as the indebtedness of the city. This audit and investigation will be independent. Persons conducting the audit and investigation will be selected by city council when report directly to council. Is there a motion?
Motion. Second.
Motion Chitwood, second Smith. Discussion.
I do have a list of names that the state auditor's office recommends that would be good to do such as this.
Very good. Please send those our way. Is Hood and Associates on the list?
I didn't study it totally, I'd have to look and see. But yeah.
Did you call the state office?
I was recommended somebody, and then I checked that one person, and they said yes. And then they were in the process of building a list for everybody statewide, and he hurried up stuff for us.
Very good. Very good.
The attorney at the auditor's office gave me a bunch of names.
Very good. Appreciate you doing that. I would normally go through Oklahoma Municipal League first, probably is what I would do, but we'll take the list. Sure enough. Thank you. Other comments or questions? Call for vote?
Nance?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Chitwood?
Yes.
Barfield?
Yes.
Gantier?
Yes.
Seaver?
Yes.
Lamar?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 5, City Attorney's Report. Discussion and possible action regarding an ordinance amending Title III, Chapter 2A, Section 7 regarding mobile food services, restrictions on location as to time by repealing said Section 7 of Title III, Chapter 2A, and providing for repealer and severability. This is the second reading was waived at our last meeting, November 15, council meeting, but no vote was taken for approval of the ordinance.
Just noticed in the minutes that the motion didn't include an approval.
Yes.
So we're just cleaning that up.
So
Motion.
there's a motion, Gantier, second Chitwood. Any discussion? Hearing none, call for vote.
Smith?
Yes.
Yes.
Barfield?
Yes.
Gantier?
Yes.
Seaver?
Yes.
Lamar?
Yes.
Nance?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item,
Mayor, excuse me.
Yes.
Can I ask the city attorney a quick question?
absolutely, sure.
In relationship to the ordinances concerning the food trucks, are they required to pay sales tax and collect sales tax?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet. Item B, discussion possible action regarding a resolution declaring the eligibility of the city of Pryor Creek to submit an application to the Oklahoma Department of Transportation for use of Transportation Alternatives Program funds. Those are
Second.
TAP funds. Motion, Gantier, second, Chitwood. We find that on page 125, 126 in your packet. Are there any questions, any comments? Hearing none, call for vote.
Chitwood?
Yes.
Parham?
Yes.
Gantier?
Yes.
Seaver?
Yes.
Lamar?
Yes.
Nance?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Move to item 6, discussion possible action on consent agenda. A, approval of minutes, November 15, 2022 council meeting. B, approval payroll purchase orders through December 9, 2022. Item C, approval claims for purchase orders through December 6, 2022. Item D, acknowledge receipt of deficient purchase orders. Item E, discussion possible action regarding approval of 2023 City of Pryor Creek Municipal Utility Board holiday calendar. Item F, discussion possible action regarding approval of the scheduled 2023 City of Pryor Creek council meetings. Excuse me. Item G, discussion possible action regarding approval of scheduled 2023 City of Pryor Creek Budget and Personnel Committee meetings. Item H, discussion possible action regarding approval of scheduled 2023 City of Pryor Creek Street Committee meetings. Item I, discussion possible action regarding approvals of the scheduled 2023 City of Pryor Creek Park Cemetery Board meetings. Item J, discussion possible action regarding approval of the scheduled 2023 City of Pryor Creek Planning and Zoning Commission meetings. Item K, discussion possible action regarding approval of scheduled 2023 City of Pryor Creek Planning and Zoning Board of Adjustments Multi-Hazard Mitigation Committee meetings. Item L, discussion possible action regarding approval of the scheduled 2023 City of Pryor Creek Recreation Center Board meetings. Item M, discussion possible action regarding approval of schedule of the 2023 Library Board meetings. Item N, just want to be sure y'all are awake there. Item N, discussion possible action regarding approval of scheduled 2023 Ordinance and Insurance Committee meetings. Item O, discussion possible action regarding approval of the scheduled 2023 Floodplain Board meetings. Item P, discussion possible action regarding approval of scheduled 2023 Hotel Motel Tax Allocation Board meetings. Item Q, discussion possible action regarding approval of the scheduled 2023 Economic Development Trust Authority meetings. Item R, discussion possible action regarding approval of scheduled 2023 Personnel Board meetings. Item S, acknowledge 2023 Municipal Utility Board meeting schedule. Item T, discussion possible action regarding request for waiver of building permit fees for a storage building, Mays County Fairgrounds, to be used by Mays County Emergency Management. Item U, discussion possible action regarding expenditure in the amount of $2,988 to Archive Social Incorporated for the annual social media archiving subscription from general software account 02-201-5260. Item V, discussion possible action regarding the reappointment of Fred Sordahl to the Economic Development Trust Authority, seat 3, term ending 1/13/27. Item W, discussion possible action regarding the reappointment of Don Berger to the Economic Development Trust Authority, seat 4, term ending 1/13/27. Item X, discussion possible action regarding an expenditure not to exceed $5,200 to Homeland for 100 gift cards in the amount of $50 each to show appreciation for full-time city employees, and 8 gift cards in the amount of $25 to show appreciation to part-time city employees for the Christmas Employee Appreciation Account 02-201-5333. Item Y, discussion possible action regarding hiring Zachariah Gibson to volunteer firefighter position at the Pryor Creek Fire Department effective December 7, 2022. Item Z, discussion possible action regarding accepting bid from Tibbetts Trucking in the amount of $5,150 from the demolition of property at 305 North Mays, owned by Nora Kenyon, and from nuisance abatement account 464655450. Other bids received, all-terrain demolition and excavation at $6,800, Custom Cuts LLC at $19,500. Item AA, discussion possible action regarding expenditure in the amount of $8,539.95 to Pryor Chevrolet for the repair of a 2015 Tahoe, which is a motor replacement, as in the best interest of the city, from Police Repair and Maintenance Account 02-215-5092. J. Hatfield Chevrolet in Veneta is unable to get a motor. Other bids received. J. Hatfield Chevrolet of Veneta, $8,157.57. Mike's Tire and Car Care, $8,557.07. All bids received will come with a 36-month, 100,000-mile warranty. Item B, discussion possible action regarding an expenditure in the amount of $2,750 to Electrical Services Incorporated for repair of the pool pump at the Pryor Creek Recreation Center from Aquatics Repair and Maintenance Account 84846-5091 from bids received. Other bids received, S&D Electric Motors Incorporated, $3,000. This action is pending approval by the Recreation Board on December 5th, 2022, and it was approved. This is a consent agenda. Which items would council like to remove?
Why, Yankee?
Item Y. Item A.
T.
Item T. Say again?
Tango?
Yeah, T, Tango, yes. You have removed item A, item T, item Y. All the other items, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
Motion, Gantier, second, Nance. Call for vote.
Barfield.
Yes.
Gantier.
Yes.
Seaver.
Yes.
Lamar.
Abstain.
Nance.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item A,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
T.
Uh,
We're on T now.
No.
No,
In the name.
we're on A.
Oh, okay.
Eva? Nate?
I'm sorry.
Yes. Yes.
Very good. All right.
You're feeling left out,
Oh,
weren't you?
yeah.
We called the roll.
9:00 at night.
Didn't hear him.
Item A, approved minutes of November 15, 2022 council meeting. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion Chitwood, second. Pardon me, second Smith. Call for vote.
Gantier.
Yes.
Seaver.
Yes.
Lamar.
Yes.
Nance.
Yes.
Yes, you
You
abstain.
abstain.
Mr. Lamar, you should abstain on that item.
Number A.
On A,
Yeah.
Yes.
I changed my vote to abstain.
Chipwood.
Yes.
Barfield.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item T, discussion possible action regarding request for waiver of building permit fees for storage building at Mays County Fairgrounds to be used by Mays County Emergency Management. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion Chitwood, second Smith. That item is on page 147 of your packet.
I pulled it off because of my association.
Very good.
That's the only reason.
Thank you. That is appropriate to do that, to waive those fees. Call for vote?
Seaver.
Yes.
Lamar.
Yes.
Nance.
Yes.
Smith.
Abstain.
Chipwood.
Yes.
Barfield. Yes. Gantier.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item Y, discussion possible action regarding hiring Zachariah Gibson to volunteer firefighter position, Pryor Creek Fire Department, effective December 7, 2022. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion Chitwood, second Smith. Is Mr. Gibson here?
He's actually at work.
Is it work?
I would advise him at the next council meeting, I'll bring him in there, shake his hand and meet him.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Very
He's a good man.
Yep, welcome aboard.
Welcome aboard. Appreciate him being available. Call for vote.
Lamar.
Yes.
Nance.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Chipwood.
Yes.
Barfield.
Yes.
Gantier.
Yes.
Seaver.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 7, committee reports. A, budget personnel. Shropshire is not here. No report unless anyone else from budget personnel would like to report. No?
Meeting next Tuesday.
Item B, ordinance insurance, also Shropshire not here. Anybody from ordinance insurance have a report?
We do have a meeting coming up on the, is it the 12th? 12th. I think.
12.
I can't swear to it, but we do have one coming up where we're looking at packets.
On 12/12.
Yeah.
Item C, street, Mr. Smith.
Nothing at this time.
Item 8, unforeseeable business, I know of none. Item 9, motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion, Gantier, second. Nance? You second.
Yeah, I tried to get in there, but.
Call for vote?
Nance? Yes. Smith?
Yes.
Chitwood?
Yes.
Parham?
Yes.
Gantier?
Yes.
Seaver?
Yes.
Lamar?
Yes.
Motion carries. Public Works Authority will call to order. Item 2, approval of minutes, November 15, 2022 meeting. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion Gantier, second, Smith. Call for vote?
Smith?
Yes.
Chitwood?
Yes.
Parham?
Yes.
Gantier?
Yes.
Seaver?
Yes.
Lamar?
Yes.
Abstain.
He needs to abstain of that too, doesn't he?
Would you like to abstain there?
Sure.
I think he was in the audience that day, though, so I mean, he actually heard it.
Yes.
Next time you can say yes.
Motion carries. Item 3, unforeseeable business, I know of none. Item 4 is adjourned.
Motion.
And there's a motion by
For John.
Chitwood and second by Smith.